Hello again, good evening, and welcome back to another episode of Minds on Guard, where we're learning how to guard our minds against all of the attacks, manipulations, and attempts at thought and behavior control that we come under today in the 21st century. Tonight, I want to take a brief pause from our series of videos where we're discussing the problem-reaction-solution concept and touch base on what I see to be foundational concepts that we need to make sure are understood before we really dive much deeper into the materials that are coming in future videos. To start, I think a question is in order. What does it mean to keep our minds on guard? Now, it can be very easy to misconstrue the meaning of that phrase. Throughout the course of this channel, we've examined various tactics and methods that the world employs to manipulate our thoughts and our behaviors. The goal here is to learn to seek truth and live with that as our guiding ideal. But why is this even important in the first place? And what is it about our minds that requires us to guard them against attack? There are many ways to look at this. However, the most foundational guidance on how and why we truly need to protect and guard our minds is found exclusively within the pages of the Bible. Scripture provides the ultimate lens through which we can view the importance of safeguarding our thoughts, discerning truth from deception, and maintaining clarity in a world whose systems are designed to distract and deceive us. So to begin, let's consider why the Bible places such a significant emphasis on guarding our minds. The mind, according to biblical teaching, is the battleground where spiritual warfare is continuously waged. Proverbs 4:23 explicitly states, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Here, the heart is understood in Hebrew thought as the seat of intellect, emotions, and will. In essence, our minds. Scripture clearly indicates that the state of our minds dictates every aspect of our lives, making this an issue of utmost importance. This means that we should be examining our hearts to find out where we're being influenced, in which directions we're being guided toward, and giving into selfishness and sin. In the Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans, we are explicitly warned against conforming to the patterns of this world. Romans 12:2 instructs us, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." This renewal of the mind in submission to God is crucial, because it changes us from our former selves and strengthens our ability to discern God's will, His good, acceptable, and perfect will. The concept Paul is articulating here goes beyond mere intellectual understanding. It's about actively replacing worldly thought patterns with those shaped by divine truth. This is an ongoing process requiring daily attention and intention. It implies a continuous effort, a daily recommitment to aligning ourselves with God's reality rather than the distortions presented by the world and the desires that draw us away from relationship with God. The Scripture further highlights the nature of the battle that we face. I often speak here of the battleground of the mind. Ephesians 6:12 tells us, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." Understanding that our struggles originate in spiritual realms places a higher urgency on the need to guard our minds. While there are material dangers present in the world that require us to be on guard, to reduce these threats to simply being systems of government, economics, or socio-cultural evolutions is to miss the greater war that is continually playing out, largely unseen, even though it's always felt. The protection required is not merely intellectual or material, but spiritual. We are called into understanding that more true contextual frame of our struggle and to utilize divine resources that have been provided by God Himself. Paul expands on this in Ephesians 6, verses 13 through 17, by introducing the concept of the armor of God, which includes the helmet of salvation. This helmet is symbolic of the protective power of knowing and accepting our salvation through Christ. The assurance of salvation guards our minds against doubts, fears, and lies intended to destabilize our faith and understanding of truth. The helmet, placed specifically to guard the head, or where the mind is key to maintaining clarity and certainty amidst deception and spiritual warfare. Moving to 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 3 through 5, Paul writes, "For though we walk in the flesh, we are not waging war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ." Here, the Bible explicitly acknowledges that our primary task in spiritual warfare involves taking our thoughts captive. Each thought must be scrutinized under the lens of Scripture, examined to determine its alignment with divine truth. This biblical framework calls for active participation in our thought lives, emphasizing intentionality and vigilance. Additionally, Philippians chapter 4, verse 8 provides practical advice on what should occupy our minds. "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things." This isn't simply a positive suggestion. It's a direct command. The act of focusing on that which is virtuous and God-honoring not only protects our minds, but actively shapes our character and worldview. By choosing to meditate on these qualities, we inherently reject the deceptive narratives and destructive patterns that are pervasive in the culture, which are manufactured by forces and entities that act against the will of God. Scripture also frequently highlights the need for discernment. In 1 John chapter 4, verse 1, believers are instructed, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, for many false prophets have gone out into the world." This call to discernment is central to guarding our minds. Not every influence, teaching, or philosophy encountered aligns with biblical truth. The Bible emphasizes testing and discernment precisely because the spiritual implications of our thought lives carry eternal weight. The eternal mindset and the supernatural worldview is something we will discuss at some point in the near future. For now, it is imperative that we view reality and contextualize ourselves properly, with the understanding that proper discernment should factor in the supernatural as well as what we can see and touch. Furthermore, Jesus himself emphasizes the profound connection between our thoughts and our spiritual condition. In Matthew 15:19, he states, "For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, slander." Recognizing this, we may understand why guarding our minds is so crucial. Every external sin originates internally. Thus, vigilance in guarding our minds protects us from actions that defy God's design for righteous living. The Old Testament also provides powerful examples illustrating the critical importance of mental vigilance. Psalm 119, verse 11 says, "I have stored up your word in my heart, that I might not sin against you." The act of embedding Scripture deeply within our consciousness serves as a proactive measure against mental and spiritual corruption. Ultimately, the Bible calls us to guard our minds not simply for personal betterment, but for alignment with God's overarching purposes. In Isaiah 26:3, the prophet declares, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you." This steadfastness is not passive, but an active commitment to submitting our minds under God's authority. In conclusion, Guarding our minds from a biblical perspective is fundamentally about aligning ourselves with God's eternal truth and seeking to serve His will by the way we live our lives. By actively renewing our minds, wearing the helmet of salvation, taking every thought captive, and consistently meditating on scriptural truths, we fortify ourselves against spiritual deception. The world seeks to distract and deceive us. We are seeing things ramp up with greater intensity, and soon, parsing out the truth will require more of us than we can imagine at this point. The powers that are pursuing control over humanity will continue to subvert the truth through technological advancements and narratives which are designed to appear good, right, and just, but are merely illusions, meant to pull our focus away from our relationship with Jesus. Thank God He has provided us with the essential tools to maintain clarity, integrity, and spiritual vigilance. So until next time, stay strong in the Lord and keep your minds on guard.